We found that our current character was feeling a little expressionless. We wanted to make some changes to add some more life to him. When taking a look at him statically, he looks alright, he's kind of cute, but when looking at the character without his glasses, this weird thing happens where he seems to stare directly into your soul. So we modeled some nicer eyes and attached a morpher modifier to be able to animate the eyelids. After importing the FBX in Unity, we can apply the same effect with the blend shape in the eye's skin mesh renderer. We then created a simple eye texture for different colors of pupils and created a material to be applied on the eyeball mesh. Lastly, we added in some blinking animations by animating the blend shape and made an eye tracker script to be able to simulate some eye movement. The script basically just updates the material's offset to move the pupils around. And with his brand new eyes, Bean was already looking a lot more expressive. And a lot less creepy. We also found that Bean's animations felt a little boring and stiff. We tried looking at reworking the animations, but after struggling to get good results, we realized our rig left a lot to be desired. The hips and torso were rigged on one bone. This made it so we couldn't animate the torso separate from the walking animation, which made for very one-dimensional upper body animations. So we made the tough decision to re-rig the entire character, meaning that we'd also have to reanimate all of our character animations. The new rig can move the torso without affecting the legs, allowing us to have much more interesting upper body movements while walking. 2500 frames later, and while the animations still need some love, we now have a character we're at least a little bit happier with. Moving on to the other characters in our game, we wanted to work on refining our customer NPCs. We wanted to add some new AI behaviors that weren't already implemented, work on the NPCs' pathfinding, and design a UI to give the player information about what NPCs are thinking and feeling during gameplay. We brainstormed some ideas to add some more depth to the AI's behaviors, to give the NPCs more variation than just deciding yes or no am I visiting the cafe. We wanted the NPCs to do more than just order a random coffee, receive it, and leave. We wanted them to be able to make choices and behave some of the ways that regular people in real life would. We came up with 3 sets of data points that each NPC would spawn with. We call these traits, expectations, and needs. These would inform the choices that the NPCs make. For example, an NPC who's artsy or has an expectation of music might only come to your cafe if there's music playing. Or an NPC who's impatient might be willing to wait less long for their coffee. Looking at our updated behavior tree, we added some more states in which the NPCs can make choices that will affect how they will interact with their environment and enter the cafe. The states in purple are states where, based on randomized data that we generate for the NPCs, they make choices to affect their next state. Based on their traits, expectations, and needs, the NPCs will now decide to simply walk by, stop to look at the cafe from outside, consider going in the cafe, and then once in the cafe they can just look around or they can order something. Another improvement we wanted to make to our AI system was the pathfinding. We were using Unity's built-in nav mesh solution, but we found that it was really hard to tweak the nav mesh area, and the collisions between the player and the nav mesh agents were causing problems. We wanted a pathfinding solution that was easily configurable, grid-based, and that handled obstacle avoidance well. So we decided to try the A-Star Pathfinding Project Pro package from the asset store. Using this solution, we could define a grid in our level and have the NPCs navigate their way to specific grid points based on their state. After adding the necessary components to our customer prefab and scene, we had to add tags to different walls, counters, and any other objects that we don't want NPCs to pass through. Next, we needed to update our AI's state machine code to use the A-Star Movement API. Now the grid is ready to receive customers. The other cool thing about this tool is it has some great debug visuals to see what your AI is calculating in real time. While pathfinding still definitely needs some work and there's some bugs to work out, the solution is definitely better for us than NavMesh was. The next feature we worked on was a feedback system so that the player could get a sense of how customers are feeling during gameplay. We started by designing the feedback system on paper. We came up with a few different types of feedback. The first, which we called moment-to-moment feedback, would appear above the NPC's head in real time during gameplay to give an idea of what the NPC's current state is. Social feedback is feedback in the form of short social posts that NPCs would generate after they visited the cafe. These would show up in a social feed UI that the player can access during gameplay. We also thought of a daily summary to give you a kind of overview of all the customer feedbacks you received during one day. After having designed the system, we started making some mock-ups in Figma to get an idea of how the UI is going to look. We also took some time to revamp our HUD. So when it comes to the technical side of things, basically the NPC customer, which is the script that's attached to all of our customers, is controlling all of the feedback. So it'll request a feedback entry based on data that it has in the game. So for example, if let's say a customer waited for 30 seconds and based on their configs, that's too long, it'll request an entry from the feedback processor, which will return kind of a negative feedback, add it to their customer feedback list, and then that will be consumed by the different UI controllers. So these capsules in green are the callbacks for the different UI controllers. So when the NPC exits the cafe, it'll request a display for a social post based on the NPC customer's feedback list. And then it'll build a tweet and it'll show that in the social feed. Then moment-to-moment controller, the thoughts controller, it's anytime a feedback entry is created, then it'll pop on the NPC's head. And then for the daily summary, it's basically on the cafe close, it'll give a overview of all of the feedbacks from every NPC that came into the cafe during that day. Next, we had to make our UI prefabs for the social panel and the thoughts above the NPC's heads. We created some simple icons just to represent the states that we currently have in the game. And here's how they look in gameplay. So we see one of the NPCs is getting impatient. He's playing his impatient animation. I had a little thought. And then when we serve him, he's unhappy about his wait time, but then he's happy about the order quality. This is obviously still in the early stages, and we're probably going to add a ton of different icons and kind of control when they're displayed, but it's a good start. That's about it for this video. If you're interested in our game, we just uploaded a playtest build on our Steam page where you can test out all the things we talked about here. And if you like what you saw, consider wishlisting the game on Steam. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.